Live from Prescott Valley, Arizona, this is the Progressive Technology Hour, and I'm your host, Bill Alec. Just to give you a little background about myself, I'm a degreed electrical engineer, and I currently do software consulting work for major corporations. That describes my day job. At night, I become Dr. Houdini, researcher, explorer, experimenter in the world of exotic technologies. What are exotic technologies? Well, this includes such areas as free energy, gravity, anti-gravity control, and the study of the nature of time and time travel. We'll explore not only the technology, but also the how-to part of the technology. So let's have some fun today and explore the world of exotic technologies. Folks, oil closed last Friday at $128 and change per barrel. What other energy prospects are on the horizon? My guest today is Professor John Searl, founder of the SearlFX technology and the inventor of the SearlFX generator, or SEG. The SearlFX is based on magnetic fields that generates a continual motion of magnetized rollers around magnetized rings, producing electric energy and, under certain conditions, an anti-gravity effect that can be used for propulsion. Side effects include negative ionization of surrounding air and a cooling temperature around the device when in operation. In a world that is suffering massive and constant environmental damage, from the destruction of our precious rainforest to an emerging energy crisis of almost catastrophic proportions, Professor John Searl offers his global solution that can harness clean, sustainable, and limitless electrical energy. Professor Searl, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Professor, in your own words, please tell the audience, what is the SearlFX?
Well, the SearlFX is really a simple thing. It is a linear motor operating on a magnetic bearing. It is like three individual generators, each one feeding into the next one, and then the final output is collected.
Okay. There are two YouTube videos out there that shows a demonstration of your device.
Yeah. They're mock-up, giving you an idea that, A, scientists are wrong. You can get material to hang on a plate and rotate at speed without flying off. That's the objective of those mock-ups. That was to solve the argument that's been running since 1946. It is impossible for 12 rollers to sit on that plate. They would fall off, and if you try to move them, they'll just simply jump off, but they don't. And I've given reason on my website, in my book that I've written there for people to read, why they won't jump off.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, what causes those rollers to spin around the ring?
First of all, they're floating in the trough of the wave. There's a wave printed on the material. And the roller sits in that trough. And when electrons are drawn from the machine through some circuit, the rollers feel a force on the center, which causes them to rotate. When they rotate, the wave is forced to move, carrying the roller with it. The more voltage that crosses that space between the plate and the roller speeds it up. so that to get more energy, the faster the roller go, the more energy you get. If you drop the energy load, they'll slow down. They will always maintain a constant speed when idle.
Okay. Now, in the video, it shows on the outer part of the of your device. Are those collection coils or?
Now, there are coils put there because we did not have a magnetizer for putting the wave on the plate and the rollers complete. What we had to do was to make up the little missing bit of the wave that is not on them by an oscillator. Then just an oscillator, 5 volts, which makes up that wave that's missing.
Okay.
So as it draws the power across the space, and of course the roller is forced to move.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're exciting this ring motion.
You're exciting the system. You're completing the circuit that's not yet printed on that material.
Okay.
But it wasn't intended actually to run at all. It was quickly knocked up for a meeting a year ago in Washington, D.C. at a lecture, just to show what the SUG would look like. Never intended to move, just for the 12 rollers to sit on it. And people just pushed them and saw that they moved around, and it grew great interest. But as it was going to come back here, I was going to do the last bit. But then our chap in California decided he'd do it for me and save the money. And, of course, it worked. And we put it on the YouTube to let people see it. It does work.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there a free, what is the free energy aspect of this device then?
Well, we really don't say free energy because what it's actually doing is drawing in all those electrons in the space around itself, compress it, and then release it. On release, the energy stored does the work for you. So you don't burn nothing. Nothing has been burnt. It's just a compression act and releasing it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the cleanest motor I know of.
Okay. Now, can energy be extracted from this device then?
Yes, from the SUG, yes. We do get a bit of this, though it's not intended. The mock-up is not intended for producing power. It's just to show the scientists were wrong. But we do get a bit of power from it, which is greater than the 5 volts that is used to make up that wave that's missing. We can light lamps with it. But the SUG that's being built now is under development. Of course, that will produce 15 kilowatts per hour.
15 kilowatts?
Yeah. The bigger one that we've just been commissioned to do for Africa, that is a real beauty. We've got to build the magnetizer of that one. We're designing the magnetizer at this moment for it. And if all goes well and the contract is completed, it will be the biggest generator of its kind that burns nothing, that produces energy. And that will be used in Africa.
Huh. How big is this machine?
Well, that one will be 60 feet in diameter.
60 feet? Wow.
That's going to be a beauty.
Uh-huh. Now, you said it's currently being planned, or is it under...
We're designing now. We're making a model at the moment, 3 meters, to look at all the control systems to go in it. Bear in mind, Africa being unstable at this time. We've got to be certain that if there's any threat to this machine, it can go airborne and be parked out in space. That's the objective of it.
Huh.
Because we won't let it get damaged by hostile operations.
Uh-huh. Now, does this device somehow change the mass of the machine?
The power output relies on the mass in motion. The greater the mass you have in motion, the greater the power you can draw.
Uh-huh. Now, how does this anti-gravity effect occur then?
But with that, the design is slightly different. We have to use two more elements in the system to build the power up even greater. What happens is that with the flying side, more than one force is in operation. You've got gyro effects, flywheel storage. All these are just part of the SUG system. The gyro effects is, of course, for the angle of flight, and if you want to change course, it's just a matter of using the gyro technology to make it change. It just flips instantly to the new angle you want it to fly.
Mm-hmm. So you can pitch the device at what, any angle? Or?
Yes. We set out on the craft 64 reference points, so you've got 64 points that you can change the flight angle to.
Okay.
In fact, it's a fantastic piece of engineering.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it sounds very interesting. Now, the 60-foot diameter device, that sounds
that is something to blow one's brains.
Uh-huh.
And it's a wonderful challenge.
Yes. Now, are you going to start construction on this machine, or?
Yes, the money for it has been already basically agreed upon.
Okay.
The money man will be returning within 2 weeks for the final deal, and hopefully he will deliver the first amount of money for the actual big magnetizer to be commenced.
Mm-hmm. Are you going to be using or making these very large magnets?
We have to make that. The normal magnets don't work. The magnets we make are completely different. They do things which other magnets don't do. I always look at magnetism that is like light. You've got white light, but white light contains the different color bands.
Right.
You see it as white. I always look upon it that each color band has a magnetic frequency attached to it. Mm-hmm. And what we've done is we have drawn one of those bands out and use it for the purpose of magnetizing our materials. So it's a slightly different concept, one that has never been investigated by scientists. What magnetism actually has within itself, besides just being magnetism.
Interesting. Okay. So you're gonna essentially build your own magnets then? Is that what you're planning?
Yes. In other words, these magnets are not obtainable on the market until we start producing them. And at the moment, they will be only produced for the contracts we have.
Uh-huh.
And for Israel, they want large generators to replace the power stations to feed the grids. Thailand wants the same.
Interesting. Now, how would these magnets be made? Are they it's like a pressed material, or?
Yes, they're pressed, but they're done in layers for quickness. This was way done in the early period of our research, where we have to do them and compress them ourselves. Today, I decided better to get rings made by these companies who specialize in making layers. So we get China to make the definite layers we want, and then we machine them down to the requirements, and then we do what we have to do with them.
Okay, and then you magnetize the material.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
The magnetizing is quite an interesting thing, really, because the first one we're doing for Thailand, it has to have 8 different feeds to the magnetizer to create that wave around the ring, because we cannot get a magnetizer big enough quickly to do the whole ring in one go. So we decided we'd split it in 8. And we'll part each one separate. So the magnetizer is built to be fed as 8 separate ones, but must be all in step. So the wave is nice and clean all the way round.
Mm-hmm. Now, how would you...
planning.
Yeah. Now, how would you extract electrical energy from this device then?
For the things like home domestic power units, car units, they're done through coils. The coils collect them, and just like in any generating system. On the flying side, we use a brush to collect the energy. Mm-hmm. That's the difference between the two. Now, bear in mind, the voltage coming off the SEG is at very high voltage. This has to be stepped down, just like any power station does, to the voltage you require.
Right.
So the voltage is proportional to the current.
Okay.
So the higher the voltage is, and you drop it down to the voltage you require, obviously gives you much more current available.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have a device that is extracting energy from your demonstrations?
Today we don't have. We're building them in Thailand at the moment. Israel will shortly be starting too. They will be spending a couple of weeks in Thailand to see how we do the work.
Okay. Yeah, there's also, if the people out, the audience, the listening audience, just Googles John Searl's name and YouTube, you'll see a series of video demonstrations and an interesting, some diagrams of the various versions of the SEG that shows multiple layers of rollers. Is that correct, John?
That's correct, yes. For earthbound use, we only need 3 plates. That's more than enough to do the powerful any domestic requirements or factories.
Now, these 3D designs, now the rollers are set in motion by themselves? Is that how that works?
Yes. It's, as soon as current is drawn, they're forced to move. The current being drawn will decide the amount of the speed that roller will move at, and all rollers will have to follow suit. The next layer will also travel in the same direction, not opposite as some experts say they will. They won't. They'll go the same direction. The next layer will go in the same direction. Each layer has roughly 2.5 times extra speed. So as you go out, so they increase speed by 2.5 times. Really? Yes. It's a very interesting thing to watch.
Yeah, I'm watching this 3D representation on YouTube right now, and it's a very intriguing design here.
Yes. And some reports years ago by scientists said that the rollers really are plates running around. That's because their speed is so fast to the eye, it looks like a solid mass.
Right.
Not actually separate rollers. But I've seen a video of the mock-up, the second mock-up. That operates so fast, it's a hard job to see them as separate rollers. That looks just like a circular mass spinning.
Interesting.
So why are we burning fuel for?
That's a good question. That's a good question, John.
And why do people believe that they don't need the SEG? They have electricity. Why do they want SEGs? Why, if you've got mass of money, you think you don't want an SUV? You've got all the money in the world, you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not. They're not okay, because in the event of a sheer accident, their power system will be down. So where do they get the power?
Right.
The SUV will keep running.
Uh-huh.
So the same with vehicles. If you're running the vehicle on SUG, and I hope New York will set this program up with John Thomas to work on the car, to develop the SUG for it, so we can get the pollution down from car operations. And this again, if you've got a car that can run under any weather condition at any time, surely that's better than the conventional car or lorries that may not start up because the plugs are damp or you're out of fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we need this situation? Why do we make the pollution in the first place?
Mm-hmm. So your vision here is to develop these SEG devices?
Yes. Let's get this pollution business cleaned up. Why should we keep paying more tax to be able to use the roads because we say we are accused of creating pollution, when really we don't need to create pollution?
Mm-hmm.
And let's look in the home. How many wives scold themselves when cooking? I know what it's like. I was in an explosion. I know how beneficial this SEG is. It soon cools the tissue down and makes the tissue feel more comfortable. And the healing rate is very fast compared to not being in the field of the SEG. In other words, it pumps out so much negative ions. It does assist the healing process.
Yeah, I noticed that as one of the side effects of your device is that it produces negative ionization.
Yes. It's a wonderful. In fact, when I was lecturing in Colorado a few years back, I had a doctor said to me that it would be great if we could have one in the hospital. I said, well, you can, but where does the money come from to produce it?
Mm-hmm.
We have to make it here in America to be able to get quick delivery to you. But he said he tried to get the money, but I heard no more.
Yeah, I'm looking at your website here called SearlSolution.com. Yeah, the audience out there, please visit John's website here. It's called SearlSolution.com. And I see that you talk about today's energy crisis. And it is a crisis with rising fuel prices. And, how that's going to impact society here because it's driving up the price of food, fuel at the pump.
But let's face it, if we all went over to the SEG, then those people producing the fuel, the petrol and diesel, won't have a market. Surely that would make them rethink about their attitudes in future, that being greedy does not make you happy in the end.
Mm-hmm.
New technology will walk in and replace it.
Mm-hmm.
And the sooner we get the SUG on the market, and I hope by the end of this year we have got on the road demonstrating an SUG. And I hope within 2 years we'll have a car racing across America from east to west using the SUG. Never stop till the complete journey is done.
Oh,
we have
that sounds
already worked
interesting.
out that how many drivers we need on board, how much tank of water we need, how much food we need to last out that trip without having to stop.
Oh, is that in the planning stages?
Yes, that's it. I want that done in America. And I want to put John Thomas in charge of that work.
Who again? John?
John Thomas at in
John
Rochester,
Thomas.
New York.
And he's in Rochester, New York.
Yes.
Now, he's familiar with the seg and how it could be applied to to a car or adapted to a car?
But what we got to do is to raise up the funds needed to set up the plant to make the SUG. We'll probably have to use the Thailand magnetizer to magnetize the ring section. That has to be magnetized and ship it to the States. But if we could do that demonstration, every car manufacturer would switch to the SUG because there's nothing they got that could match that.
So now the seg would be a what? Just a generator? Or,
yes. It's a generator that will power, say, 4 electric motors to each wheel, right about, I would say, about 475 volts per motor. So that will get up hills as quick as anything you have on the roads today. And the SUG runs cold, so you don't need to stop to cool down.
Oh, that's interesting. The device, as a side effect, has a cooling effect.
A very cooling effect, which I have set inside the spray, and it's cool, very cool. And 3 men who have had one to test, they have said the same. It is a nice cooling effect. In fact, the effect I get is like drinking pure spring water. And it's a fantastic sensation.
John, there's an experiment that I've been planning for quite a while here that, when you place, you take a copper tube, maybe a 3-inch tube, and you drop a magnet in that copper tube. It doesn't fall. It falls at a very slow rate.
Now,
and there's an induction.
That's the eddy currents in the copper to the magnetic field.
The question that I have, John, does the temperature of the magnet change? Okay, does the magnet heat up or does it cool down as a side effect of that?
Yeah. In our type magnets, it's because so much current, flow electrons are so great passing through, the space between one electron and another is so small, they cannot build up the energy high enough, so when they bump, they don't produce the heat as in normal magnets. So it's the really reason why it runs cool is because of the amount of electrons that is in motion. So the greater the pool of electrons that get through them, the colder they will go. But the field is not affected. We have never seen any reference to any change in the magnetic field. If anything, the field seems to get stronger.
Interesting. So you observe this cooling effect.
That's a beauty thing about it.
So why does it get cold, do you think?
Cool. It's only because of the increased amount of electrons moving through the material. Less space for them to move about, to vibrate. So that makes less heat. But the other thing, too, is about it, is that where you want, like a big building storing meat, you need the room to be cool. That's one way to cool it.
So you have this plan of building a car using the SEG devices across America here. Do you have any other plans? Like
at the moment, there is a 3-foot model being created in the States to investigate the best way to produce a cargo vessel for taking stuff to, for instance, the International Space Station if required. That would be cheap. Of course, the chap is working on very low income, so it's taking time to put together. But at least he's won many awards on model making, so I'm looking forward to a really good model when he's finished it.
Mm-hmm. You know, it seems to me like the government should be funding this project, funding your research.
Well, I would thought they would love to back this one, but they're controlled by big men who are making profits in the present systems. So you won't get much help from them. The only president of America that ever tried to help was John Kennedy.
Really?
Yes. He did get Edward Air Force Base to make contact with me. And they did. And they came and studied the work and took work away to study, and then came back to say that they regretted they were unable to fund the work because there appeared to be no inertia involved. Well, we knew there was no inertia involved, because if you've got a roller how tight on the plate, then you let go and it's instant at cruising speed, where's the inertia? There can't be any.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, did not conform to their understanding. They just returned my property and told me that they regret they cannot help to fund it.
Mm-hmm.
And since that time, no other president have made any effort to help.
So it was only John Kennedy.
I must admit that President Carter did reply to John Thomas personally, wishing him all the best in the work he was doing.
Uh-huh. Huh. Yeah, I know. It's very difficult getting funding, for these projects.
Yes. But the thing is, I can understand people have vast investment in the present system.
Right.
Any other system coming into being will obviously reduce their profit margin. Mm-hmm. And they will resist it as long as possible. Well, in 1971, I went to Canada and I was taking my goods to show. The customs argued with me for an hour that I was going to sell it. I said, no, I'm demonstrating. And I said to them, okay, send me back. Tomorrow I will come in Canada without your help, and you won't even know I'm here. And I mean it. And so they looked at me serious, and in the end, they stamped my passport, let me in. But apparently, Canada does not like things like generators coming in to the country. They spent vast sums of money on dams, and that's what the Prime Minister said in 1971 when I went to lunch with him in the cabinet. He said, we'd like to fund this. This is what Canada needs, but we don't fund this sort of work. The hydro men fund it. If you go to them, they'll say no. I said, I know, I've been. They said no.
So we have powerful interest out there engaged in suppression.
Yes, it's a shame, really. Even here in the UK, the British Rail was working on the advanced passenger train. And I went out and showed them my model setup. And they said that if I made a full-scale train, they would let me have a bit of track to test it on. If it did not interfere with the signaling system, they would back it. Of course, they knew I couldn't make a full-scale one on my own. I didn't have the money. So they were safe to carry on with advanced passenger train, which has come to nothing in the UK.
You know, what we need is a change in the system. And the system, a cooperation between government, academia, and
what
the
they want is a center where new ideas are brought and team of real engineers and people of high-grade knowledge work as a bank of brains to develop such technology. And it can be done. But you can't get it done in little groups. Because things cost too much. It's time the brains will be brought together in one place, given all the energy required, the tools, the equipment, and say, do it. And it will be done.
Mm-hmm.
We are setting now in Thailand, yes, soon in Israel, then in Italy. But the struggle, because we're getting the money from smaller individual private people. And that's a pity.
Yes. Well, this is what we're trying to do over here, too. We're working on this project called the Ranch Project. And the idea here is to bring inventors in and along with investment and investors in with this program. And the idea is to recreate society, okay, and for the benefit of society, with these great inventions that are literally suppressed today. I mean, it's in today's world, the suppression is just incredible. Incredible.
What's more shocking to me is that all these years I've taken not a penny from money came. It's all gone into this research work. For years now, I lived entirely on my pension, but I'm still working at it. I've gone 76, and I'm still working at it all the hours I can, and still from my pension money. And still, people steal my property to stop me.
Yes. Yeah, I've heard that happening with another researcher, John Hutchison.
Oh, yes.
And he told me some interesting stories, about his past. And, about the government coming in. I also had the government coming in at our place here. I live in Prescott Valley.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend here is under surveillance by the three-letter agencies. She's into the UFO phenomena of the past 25 years.
Well, of course, I don't know if you knew that the two FBI went to John Thomas investigating a bank robbery where a chap got shot. When they went to his home, they found on a blotting paper John Thomas' name and address. So when John asked them why, they explained, we wondered what they had to do with him. And he said, well, what I think has happened is they were robbing the bank to get money to pay us to make the SEG. So they want to know what the SEG was. So John Thomas took them in and showed them all about the work and the technology. They said, well, we want to buy the first two that is made. They thought it was funny. Now, I had more trouble from people connected with me than from the governments. The governments always wish me good luck. But they have to, because the state of the atmosphere is so bad. They can't be seen helping me because I'm not a power industry. The power industry would get up in anger and stop funding the government if they hope somebody outside of themselves. So they wish me harm. The biggest fault comes from the people who work with me and members of the family. They are the key issue of the robberies that have happened. To stop me, because they want to own the technology. And that's sad, because they lost out. They actually cut their own throat by robbing me.
Right.
And as I say, today, I don't care where I live, as long as I can head the development work and create future technology that is clean, that will help everybody on Earth, not an individual person.
Now, on your website here, now this is SearlSolutions.com. The Searl effect was discovered by John Roy Robert Searl?
Yes.
Is he your father? Or?
No, that's me. That's my full name.
Oh, that's
John
your full
Roy
name.
Robert
Okay. Okay. In 1946.
That was some time ago. That's when I was in Mortimer, Oxford. not the key work was done.
Okay. Now, did you build any devices back then, or?
Yes. Well, we had a plot of land in the woods in Berkshire. When we took the press there, they went blindfolded. We blindfolded them, so they never knew where exactly the place was.
Uh-huh.
We let them film, and they spent all day filming and taking notes. And then they were blindfolded and took back to my home.
So what did you build back then? What were your experiments?
Well, Demo 1 was a research on manned flight craft, which was to be Starship the sequel, Mark V. But the funds came to a halt after the Demo 1 was completed. And we needed really government backing to carry on.
Uh-huh. Now, did the device lift off the ground, or what?
Yes.
What did it do?
But unfortunately, we had to give up. It had to be scrapped because we could not find a museum who could take it. They said it was too large for the space they got. So in the end, it was scrapped. It's a shame, really, because everybody who went there and saw it said it should be in a museum. It's a great piece of art. Even London University asked me if students could come there at the weekend and draw pictures. And when I used to arrive next day, they told me, boy, it looked like an alien spaceship when this moon came out.
Uh-huh. So this was back in the late 40s?
60s, that one.
Oh, back in the 60s?
68.
Okay. Oh, back in 68?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But now the whole story of the progress, it started off with 13 old age pensioners who didn't want anything to do with commercial production. They just wanted the fun to see what I could do. And they fund the development work. And of course, we had plenty of fun. I must admit that we did play pranks on people, which took them by surprise. I just want to see how people reacted when something unknown to them they get confronted with. And I can tell you something, too, that cars coming in quiet country lanes suddenly see a craft like this in front of them, they backpedal quick and get out of the way. They don't hang around to find out what it is.
Uh-huh.
And people on sites where we've tested it to see how people reacted, they turn and run once they see it.
Uh-huh.
So some of the stories I read that have been sent to me don't quite agree with what I have discovered by testing the public.
Okay. Now, was there some sort of spinning involved in this machine, or?
I'm sorry, I've lost you, Sam.
Oh, was there some sort of spinning or rollers involved in your early work, or?
Yes. That you're referring to the rollers themselves?
Yes, and your back in '68, your original.
Yes. When I started off, we had solid roller. I made solid rollers, and John Thomas actually came one day, and I showed him the first experiment, and he put the roller on the plate, and it went to move and then turned diagonal and locked. I said, now, John, that's a problem. How do you solve it? He said, I have no idea. So I gave him another roller, now in 8 sections. I said, now you put that on and see what happens. And it ran up and down quite freely. I said, you see, a solid roller, I try to run faster in the middle than the ends. Mm-hmm. And that's why it twists and stops. When you segment it, each segment is free to rotate. Therefore, the center part being loaded greater can revolve a little faster. And therefore, the roller keeps in a straight line.
And so these are just set in motion then?
Yes, yes. The SUG, you never stop it. When we install an SUG, you forget it exists. You just leave it right. Same in the car, you never stop it. You just turn off the power to the motors. And the SUG, but because it only loads to a level idle, and because no current has been taken, it just runs at this one constant speed that could be about 200 revs a minute. It just keeps on running at that speed.
Okay.
But as soon as you turn on, now the draw to the motors will suddenly shoot it forward, instant to a new speed. There's no slow acceleration like the wheels of a car getting into motion. It is instant, from one speed to the next.
Do the rollers speed up or slow down?
Yeah, they'll travel according to the voltage being drawn. The more voltage been taken, the faster they rotate. But you drop the voltage, they slow down instant with it.
Well, so you're saying that it speeds up under load?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
And of course, we have to, for a domestic unit, would have to put an internal switch to prevent people tamping, to bypass the master switch on the outside to see how much power they get. Because if they did or were allowed to do that, it would lift up and go through their ceiling, and they would want a new house. And we couldn't be responsible for damage done to property by people interfering with the machine.
So where do you think the energy is coming from?
The energy is all around us. About good 90% of the energy hits the earth is thrown back out. But the SUGs tap on this energy and just compress it, and we use it. It's there everywhere around us. Plenty of energy for meeting world demand. So what's happened is, instead of so much energy thrown back out into space, we are using it. We are compressing and using it.
Do you think this is related to zero-point energy?
Well, that I cannot argue about or make any statements because I haven't investigated from that angle. I'm too busy working on the magnetic side to get these waves dead right. Because we got 4 waves we have to put on the segments of the rollers. There's 8 segments to a roller set. And those waves must be right. And the 2 waves on the plate have to be dead right. So that is quite a bit of work to work out. So I'm so busy with, we've got 2 or 3 countries now want to join in. That means I've got a lot of work on my plate trying to supply them with the correct information.
Right.
But we'll get there. There is no argument.
Fascinating. Very fascinating.
I've got the right team now. And that makes a difference when you've got the right team.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so just to recap this, your device, it spins at an idle speed under no load, but as you start to load it down, it then speeds up, supplying more and more energy then.
Right.
And you think this is...
It can produce more energy, and then when you reach a certain velocity, it goes superconducting. Once it does that, the only difference with SUG to any other superconductor device is that once it goes superconductor, it's locked until you force a change of that state, whereby in normal superconductor states, change in the temperature 1 degree stops it.
Have you tried any kind of time measurements? Have you placed a clock next to this device?
Yes, we've done clock measurements. In fact, the equipment we're pulling in Thailand is to carry out an immense amount of research work on what is actually happening. And I think by the end of the year, we'll have a very good picture whether we can make cheaper materials behave in the same manner.
Because I'm wondering if time would speed up close to this device.
What we need is obviously a really good laboratory.
Uh-huh.
And that is what I hope we will end up having, where we can develop the future products.
Uh-huh.
Because space will need a lot of research and development in technology to be able to meet the demands. After all, the rocket is not the best choice to go to Mars.
Oh, absolutely not. Yes, that's correct.
And the law of the square say there are always two prime states to everything in this universe. So there must be another state beside the rocket, and of course the IGV is it. The rocket is a vertical device. The IGV is a horizontal device. And I know both America and Canada, working together, have produced a number of vertical ideas, not the horizontal ideas, which have ended up as scrap.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're using the same idea as aircraft propulsion and rocket propulsion. It will not work on a disc-shaped object. This-shaped object calls for different thinking altogether. You have to come into the world of the gyro to get your designs.
Yeah, John, do you think the current output from this device, it's, there's been a lot of talk about cold current,
yes,
as opposed to hot current.
Yeah. Well, there have been lots of scientific papers sent to me. A lot of people talk about its heavy electrons. But, of course, the question here is, until you've got a proper research laboratory in operation to get out every minute detail, it's not a simple thing to do.
Right.
We will get there in the end.
Mm-hmm.
I can see trains running on the SUG where fares will be next to nothing to travel for miles. Clean cars, ships moving on the same technology, yachts using the same technology, stop burning diesel and that. The price to the operators will drop immensely, especially as prices of fuel goes up.
Yes.
For this fuel, you pay nothing. Agree, you got one payment, but only one. You buy the machine, all the power for your lifetime and your family lifetime costs nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose you can call that free.
That's what the show is all about. This is what we're investigating.
I want to see this happen before I die. I want to see it on the marketplace.
You and me and many other people out there like to see this too.
Surely 1 million people can find $1 a month to send to get the work done.
Well,
That's
okay,
not
John.
asking for much.
Yes, this wraps up another hour of Progressive Technology Hour. I want to thank John Searl for coming on the air here and explaining his SEG technology. John, thank you for coming on the air.
Thank you very much for giving me the time.
Yes,
and I wish every listener all the best.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was John Searl, inventor of the SEG device.